Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Today I've got a great friend of mine on, Kimmie. I'll introduce you back to Kimmie in a minute. But first I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm calling in from. I'm here in Melbourne on the land of the Ngarrindjeri people, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past and present. But also I want to acknowledge the young people that are coming through, because they're going to be our future leaders and warriors that are going to take culture into the future. So today I've got a great friend of mine on, Kimmie. How are you?
Hello, how you doing?
Cool. For people that don't know who you are, who are you, where you're from?
So my name is Kimmie Lovegrove. I am a proud Ngarrindjeri woman from South Australia, but I've been living in Naarm for the last 12 years. And I would just like to acknowledge that I am on the lands of the Coorong people. I just moved to St Kilda, so I'm very happy to still be living on Coorong, but in a different kind of section of Coorong, so I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, we spoke a couple of years ago, and I wanted you to get back on. One, because you've just finished your course recently.
Yes.
BCA. Tell us exactly. No, it was not NIDA?
No, so I've done a couple of things.
Yes.
So I did my Masters of Theatre Writing at VCA.
BCA, yeah.
And just recently I got accepted to go and do a performance kind of extension program with NIDA in Sydney. They've never done this type of course before, and so primarily it's for First Nations people from the age of 18 to kind of like 30. I was a couple years off that mark, and so I was very happy to kind of gain some new skills, but also offer some advice to some of the young people coming through that may not feel as confident to go to like auditions or go and take up like a new kind of like mode of storytelling, which essentially what is the course is all about.
Yeah. So you finished your course in VCA.
Yeah.
What was that like studying?
It was obviously studying at like white institutions is always interesting, and I've studied at some of like Australia and the world's, best universities. And I think as blackfellas, it's can be very isolating when you're trying to learn from all these whitefellas, and then someone throws off a potentially like racist comment, and it's just, okay, how do I navigate around this? And because with the class that I was in, everyone is pretty much like a family, and we talked it out. Some people had positive experiences, some didn't. And I think what I kind of found interesting is when you ask a cohort full of black and white fellas about what is deemed racist, it can open up a floodwork. And it's just like, okay, how do I navigate this experience and these conversations without being like a stereotypical angry black woman that just wants to fight everybody because they're not listening, they're not doing the proper thing to protect myself or future First Nations mob to come through. But besides the potential like racist kind of experiences, I learned a lot about storytelling and kind of how white fellas do it, and how they get to be seen and heard, and kind of like, I'm gonna say it, stealing their ideas and kind of using it against them, so I can provide opportunities for my people, my mob, to be seen and to be heard, because that's still a massive issue that we're facing today. And sometimes it like stops us from putting on work or to even, apply for programs, because we know we're going to get that rejection letter and, all these things go through our head. And so for me, the most important thing that I am always thinking of when I see a writing program going out, I immediately apply for it. And sometimes like I'm successful, sometimes I'm not, but it's sometimes I'm given the opportunity to have future conversations with the people putting on these
Yeah.
writers programs to talk about, okay, you got a really good take on this story. Let's work together to kind of give you that little bit of a push to help kind of like you to be a part of the initiative of the program for the next round.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. And I do think there's a big difference between hearing and listening. And I think that I always say to people in cultural awareness training, Aboriginal people want our voices heard but listened to. And people go, what do you mean the difference is? And I always say things like, I can give you a headset right now and pop it on your head and you can hear the music because you can hear the music playing. But are you listening to every word that the singer's actually saying? Are you analysing every line and walking out with the meaning behind that song? Because if you're not, you're just hearing it, you're not listening to it.
Because I've had similar conversations with a couple of friends when it comes, because obviously, you know, a lot we go through so much and we have different ways of, you know, dealing with our own trauma and our own grief. And I've had this conversation around with when you know that somebody's going through a hard time and when you don't acknowledge what they're saying, it kind of, I don't know, it does something to your mental health and it kind of like jolts you a bit. And so I kind of, when having those feelings, especially as a creative where I'm still not being listened to, I'm still not being heard, I'm still not being acknowledged, and then kind of having people ask, how are you still in this industry when, you know, they don't treat you like they do with the white fellas or anyone else that is very successful in the industry. And I always tell them that I know that my name is meant to be in lights, and that is always at the top of my head with every rejection that I get, every no I get, every time someone doesn't listen or acknowledge the stories that I'm telling. I'm just like, I am bigger than this. I'm not going to let, you know, the negative people and the haters kind of say, oh, you know, you're not black enough to talk about this, you know, what do you know about Aboriginal culture? And it's just like, okay, Kimmie, take a breath, it's going to be fine. Just ooh-sah, breathe in and out, you know? And so for me, because I experienced my first kind of like online kind of like racial attack from a video I did for RMIT, and I had no idea how to kind of like handle it. And a lot of my friends were like, Kimmie, you have to write about it, whether it be for a play or whether it be for your comedy. And so I'm slowly kind of, I'm not rereading the comments, but kind of, I guess, reflecting on that moment, having these white fellas telling me that I hate them, that I hate their culture, that I would be nothing without them. And I'm just like, okay, you've given me like at least a half hour set full of material. I'ma go in, and because even still to this day, like we have keyboard warriors just trying to like push out hate. And I remember seeing a post from my niece, and she screenshotted this comment of this white fella saying, you know, I've met a couple Lovegroves and yeah, they all hate white people. And I said to my niece, that's completely false, because I love white people because I'm not related to them, you know? And it's just like, if I hated like white people, I would be, you know, marrying my cousin. I'd be having kids to my cousins, and I can't because it's wrong. So it's just like, I love you guys. You guys always come to my shows. You're always, you know, try and give me money that I don't ask for, which has happened maybe once or twice. But it's just like, it's those kind of comments where it's just like, okay, there's something here. Let's kind of like debunk it. Let's pull it apart and get to the root of the problem. And that's where I'm just like, for a lot of people, they'll, you know, confront the person if they say or do anything racist. And with me, I sit back with my phone open, my notes app open, and I just start writing.
Yeah.
And so that's my way to deal with any type of hate, anything that really kind of like irks my chain or just makes me very disappointed in humanity. I just kind of like write it out, and then I'm able to find like the funny in something negative, which is not a lot of people have that gift, and I'm very blessed to be able to bring that to the world.
Yeah, because it's about twisting the narrative and making it's like transitioning from the victim into the hero. Yeah, and I love watching your shows, and I love hearing you talk, because you have a habit of putting stuff out there that people want to say but don't know always how to say it.
Yeah.
But in a way that actually is hilariously funny in terms of because it's true.
Yeah. I can't, like, every joke that I've put in my shows, they are 100% factual, and because I'm writing a brand new show for Melbourne Fringe, and it's called Love, it's in the name, and it's all about, you know, Kimmie online dating, going on them apps and how dangerous they are. And I was saying that to another Black follower, and she thought like the violence part of online dating. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going on dates and fighting white men. I'm talking about the danger of matching with your cousin, because that's the real danger that we must, you know, tackle. That is very scary. And then kind of talking about living with boys and how I was able to live in a shared house for nearly 4 years and not like pull out my hair or shave my hair, because it's just like when you're living with friends who are like your little brothers, they're just like, you know, poking you and making fun. I'm just like, okay, it's fine, say what you want, I'm gonna put it in a show. you'll know it's about you, but I won't like mention your name or anything. And then kind of creating a segment, because it's all going to be in PowerPoint presentation about how much I love white people and their culture, and about how
and they work well with PowerPoint.
Yeah, like that is my go-to. It's all going to be in PowerPoint, and I'm going to have one of those like little stretcher kind of like
pointed things.
Pointed things, and just like pointing out like all the things I love about white people. And I'm creating like a little segment of how like white men are my kryptonite. And if you've seen Dance Moms with Abby Miller, she creates this like pyramid scheme of her kind of like top 5 favorite dancers. So I'm taking that initiative and creating my top 5 white boys. And so I'm just trying to, because I purely believe in manifestation, and, you know, black magic is 100% real. So I'm like, with these shows that I'm doing at Melbourne Fringe, that I need everyone that comes along to, because it will be like fully recorded, so once I upload it on my socials, get everyone to like tag these guys, get them to come along to my show for a comedy festival. And just because there's the one actor who's like at the top, and one of my friends was telling me, Kimmie, if this guy comes to your show, how are you going to react? I'm like, I'm going to have to do a lot of like pre-meditations and not kind of like fangirl as I'm on stage, because it's just like, the one thing I love about stand-up comedy is that the room is dark and I can only see the front row, and barely I can see the second row. So if he shows up, obviously he's going to sit in the back, so I won't know he's there, so I'll be fine. But yes, it's going to be very Unless he arrives late
and has to get to the front because they only see the available left. And then you're fucked.
Then I'll turn around and I'll kind of like act my expression, because I'm also a part of Ilbijerri's kind of like acting program called Ensemble. So learning how to kind of like how to take in a script and learning some acting skills as well. So I'm just like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. If any of these white boys come to my show, I'll be like, it's fine. It's cool. It's Kimmie's time. They're not going to refund if they don't laugh, but they will laugh.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes of it. But I'm really excited to do this brand new show. It's something totally different, and it really goes in hard on, I guess, the experiences of what it's like living in a white world as a black woman, and not like pulling any punches, and still being very observational about these lived experiences. And every story that I tell is 100% factual. I can't make it up. And every time I talk about this show to my friends, they then share a story with me. And then I'm just like, can I please use this? And so I'll just take out their name and just try and like envision myself in that scenario and then go from there. So there's a lot of like shared stories that will be coming through, which I'm really excited to share with everyone that comes along to Melbourne Fringe. So yeah.
And do we know where it's going to be played?
So it will be held at Bard's Apothecary in the city.
Yep.
From October 13 to October 17. So I'm pretty sure it's the last week of Melbourne Fringe.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to come along to a show, please follow me. If you don't, you're racist. So let's not be racist together.
Yep. And I'll make sure all the information's in the YouTube page on the
nice.
Now I've seen you recently at a show, and we caught up briefly, which was absolutely amazing. But I was going to say, when you go out to theatre yourself, what sort of theatre shows do you like to see?
I like to see a mixture of shows, but primarily I love seeing my friends when they're in shows. I love seeing Black stories on stage. I recently saw a show at Theatre Works that one of my friends was in, and it was kind of like talking about I guess the experiences of 3 women living in a war zone, and kind of how do they navigate these kind of relationships and these connections, and how do they still remain human in such a inhumane kind of situation. So that was a very interesting show, not something I would usually see, but I'll see any show that my friends are in. I've had friends who have been in a Shakespeare show, which it was like Shakespeare in the Park, and it was like, it wasn't meant to be hot, but the sun was just like drying me out and I nearly passed out. And I'm just like, you are so lucky that I support you and your creative ventures. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even bought a ticket. But I really do love supporting my friends, because I know how hard it is to like remember all your lines and to remember the story and to repeat the same thing every single night, where with like stand-up comedy, like some comedians will have a script. I don't. I just go by dot points. So every show is different. You never know what I'm going to say. Yes, the jokes and the kind of like headlines are the same, but for me, I can't write a script for my stand-up, because I feel like if it's too structured, then you lose the funny. Where it's just like, if you go by dot point, then you're just like, okay, this dot point connects to this point, connects to this point. I know exactly what to say to go from A, B, C. But it's always It's always interesting seeing actors then go into stand up, or seeing people on social media go into stand up, because there's a lot of debate about, social media influencers making the shift into like stand up comedy, and how they're portraying like the art of comedy and stand up. And I'm just like, I think a very important question we need to have, well, debate we need to have, is accessibility, because not everyone can afford a venue. Not
Yeah.
everyone, knows how to write. And if you are able to, create a skit or write something in short form, like, you'll be able to kind of like make your way into stand up. So I think there's still a lot of privilege in stand up comedy, especially a lot of privilege with like white men. So I'm always, open to providing opportunities for women of color, or,
Yeah.
people who find it hard to, get on stage because they don't know the right people. And then I'll share that knowledge that I've been able to gain over the last like 11 years. So yeah, I love sharing opportunities with people, so we're not alone to follow our dreams.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important about dreams,
Mm.
So if a young person came to you and said, "Hey, I want to break into stand-up comedy, or I want to break
Mm.
into acting, I've got no idea where to even start," what would you recommend?
I would recommend for acting, I would recommend getting in touch with Ilbijerri, because they're always looking for young mob or like older mob who want to, expand on their knowledge or expand on their skills. They have a ton of kind of like professional development programs that you can get on board with. And for anyone that wants to get into stand-up comedy, kind of like getting in touch with Deadly Funny and the comedy festival to see what is available, because they'll be able to kind of introduce you to other kind of like initiatives or programs that's not just within the festival, but also within other kind of artistic kind of like businesses as well. So that's kind of that's the advice that I'm always giving anybody that has come up to me and asked, what advice would you give?
Yeah.
And I would kind of like extend my support to offer like mentoring or advice when they do approach these organizations, because they may not feel like comfortable or like safe to kind of reach out. And so that's when I'll kind of organize a like meeting with these organizations, saying, hey, I have this up and coming like star who really wants to get involved. How can we support them in the development of their career?
Yeah.
And university, everyone says, you need to like go study acting, you need to go study to become a performer. And I feel like with Black folks, we're natural storytellers, we're naturally gifted in like acting and doing and just making people laugh.
Yeah.
So if you can avoid going to, I guess, VCA or NIDA, and just kind of learning from people in the industry, because then you're kind of like saving yourself a ton of hex debt. So if you can avoid getting hex debt, you'll be fine. There
Yeah.
are a ton of other avenues to kind of reach out to. But that's the advice that I'm always giving my friends and people in community when they ask, where would be the best place to start, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I first got into the industry, I didn't know either. And so I kind of just did as many university courses until I met the right people. And then they were able to kind of like introduce me to other people in the arts. And then I started to like build on those networks and connections. And now I run my own business where I produce comedy shows, and now I do stand-up comedy, and I'm doing acting, and I'm doing everything. And a lot of people think I'm rich. I'm rich in knowledge. I'm not
Yeah.
rich in the monies. So if you
Yeah.
know rich people, send them my way.
Yeah. So can't ask you for a line at the moment.
No.
Damn.
I'll share my knowledge, see how much money can get off that.
Yeah.
But that's as far as that will go.
Yeah. Role models. Do you have any role models that you look up to?
So I look up to my cousin Kevin, who we all know, Kevin Capinnery. I still remember the first time, like, because I had just moved to Melbourne and I went to one of his shows that were a part of Comedy Festival. And so we went back to his hotel in the foyer where they had a bar. So we were just having a couple drinks, and I was just being myself, cracking up jokes, and everyone around him was saying, Kevin, you need to get her into comedy because she's bloody hilarious. And so he mentioned Deadly Funny, and then the following year I entered Deadly Funny for a couple years until I made it to the Nationals. And so that was, he's always looked out for me. He's always given me, you know, that kind of like tough love, like auntie, uncle, cousin kind of like vibe. And sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. But I always take it like a champ, because I know that he, you know, wants me to succeed as much as I want to succeed. So he's always in my corner, no matter where we are in the world. He's always there, kind of championing for me and speaking my praises when I'm not in the room. And I think my kind of like advice I'm always giving mob is when going into the arts and, you know, trying to think of who to have in your corner, make sure that the people you have in your corner will, you know, sing your praises when you're not in that room to kind of like speak for yourself, because it is so easy for people to kind of like talk down about you and kind of like say, oh, you know, so-and-so tries so hard, or, you know, they think they're so deadly, they think they're so good, they think they're better than everyone else. And that's not always the case. So I always make sure that with the people that I have around me, that, you know, they sing my praises, and, you know, they are always there to kind of speak for me when I'm not in the room to do that. So find your people. They're out there, but find your people.
So while you're studying, you're actually meeting other colleagues. Is there anyone that we should be looking out for that you admire?
Phoebe Grainer. She is a fantastic playwright.
Amazing.
I still remember the first day we met each other. The course coordinator reached out and said, oh, there's another blackfellow playwright who will be in your class. When you see her on the first day, you know, just kind of like introduce yourself. And so I kind of stalked her on Instagram, and so I could just put a name to the face, and I saw all her like credentials and just how deadly she is with her writing and with her acting as well. And it was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So as soon as I walked in the room, I immediately saw her across the room, sat down and started waving at her. And it's just like, as soon as blackfellas kind of like acknowledge each other in the room, it's just like you just know that, you know, you found your people. And she's always given me advice with my writing, constantly sharing opportunities with me to have my stories heard as well. Who else? There are a ton. I have to chuck in my old housemates, Corey Sailor Brunskill and Zach Blampede. They are a force to be reckoned with. I think all of us will recognize Zach from Invisible Boys. That's on Stan. And he was in another show about Yvonne
Goolagong Cooley.
Goolagong Cooley. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce it. And I still remember when he was rehearsing lines for that one scene, and when I saw the full scene, I'm just like, hey, I helped you read lines for that part. That was so cool. And so just and with Corey, he's not only an actor, but he's a rapper as well, and a really great director. He's directed a creative development for my play My Roy, which was really really fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you go check out Corey's rapper alter ego online, Taurus Green, he's uploaded a couple of rap battles that we've done to help promote his latest single Lupin. And yeah, it's very fun for like a comedian to be able to rap battle a rapper who knows how to rhyme. And I'm just rhyming like Dr. Seuss. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. But I'm surrounded around like very talented and very successful Black artists that inspire me every day. For when I have those moments where I don't want to create, I'll just go on YouTube and like Google my friends, and then I'll see that there's a video or an interview. I'll watch it, and then I'll start creating again. So yeah.
So I've got a question I bet no one's ever asked you. What's it like living with other actors and people in arts?
It's very inspirational. They give me an insight on the audition process and how crazy it can be. And like, I'll admit, there's been times where I've wanted to help them with their self-tapes, and they've chosen each other to help each other. And I'm just like, guys, I'm an actor too. I can help you. But because of what the casting agent is needing, they need someone with more experience, which I can fully understand. So that's when I'll ask, can I, sit in the room while you guys kind of read lines with each other? Can I ask, questions about how you go about finding the intention for your character, which I'm learning at the moment with Ilbijerri Ensemble as well. How do you, really go in on the research of your character? And because something I've noticed is there's a difference between acting authentically and overacting. And sometimes people will, when they've given a script and a character, they'll kind of act the way the director or the kind of writer wants. And it's just like, I think a lot of when actors, when they secure that job, I really feel that they get that job because they're able to bring that character to life that is as authentic as possible. And so sometimes me and my friends will, when we're bored, we'll go on YouTube and kind of look at like horrible acting. And so a lot of these videos feature like Jacob Elordi, who's like so familiar and famous in Australia, but it's just like sometimes you just cringe at a lot of these young actors. And so for me, I'm just like, okay, show me what not to do. Which you'll find a lot. And then with my friends, when we're watching movies, they'll kind of like give a little behind the scenes on how that scene was done, and then they'll give their take on how it could have been done better. So yes, it was always interesting to kind of learn a little bit more on the kind of like the journey of an actor when they're trying to secure that role. And I just find that very inspirational. But it's interesting because me, Zach, and Corey will never audition for the same role. We will never audition for the same role. So, because I remember maybe the second year I did Deadly Funny, Indigenous ABC came along to a heat, and afterwards they're like, we really loved your performance, Kimmie. You're giving a geek chic version of Rebel Wilson. And I'm just like, that is a massive honor. I absolutely love her. She is hilarious.
Yeah.
And if other people can see me as a black version of Rebel Wilson, that is fantastic. But I know at the moment she's got some legal issues happening.
Yeah. You don't
But
want those legal issues.
no, I do not. I don't want to be sued for anything because I'm too broke. But
Yeah.
other than
And we don't need another black woman in court.
no. Other than that, to kind of, for me to remind people of Rebel, that is a massive compliment. And, sometimes I'll joke about that kind of like scenario, and I'm just like, why are people comparing me to a white woman? And now I've kind of like taken that, and I'm just like, no, Rebel Wilson is the white version of me. So if I was white, I'd be a little like Rebel Wilson, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's still a massive compliment.
Yeah. What's the worst compliment? Those backhanded compliments that you've ever had?
That's a tough one. I don't think I've ever been given like a backhanded compliment,
Okay.
but when I first got into comedy, I had this fear that, I would only get gigs because of who I was related to.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation with cousin Kevin, and I said, I don't want to kind of like piggytail off you and your success. I don't want to get gigs because we're related. I want to get gigs because of the stories that I tell, and that, they tell the truth in a different way. So I will always talk about how I found out I was Aboriginal. I will always talk about, the experiences I've had going from one university to the other, to being a registered celebrant and talking about, marriage law and how weird it is, but we have to have these important conversations. I want to get gigs because I tell the truth in a different way than my cousin does, or I tell the truth a different way that, Andy Saunders or Sean Truber or even Elaine Crombie. And that's always something that I've always pushed for, and always kind of looked at the material that they kind of do, and I'm just like, okay, how can I tell my story that is quite similar to theirs but in a different way that hasn't been done before?
Yeah.
And because there is little to none Aboriginal celebrants, I've got my niche. I'm just gonna, go right into, a very old white man legislation and just tear it apart, which will help them make sense of how sometimes we need to have these tough conversations about things that may, creep us out a bit, like incest.
Yeah. Which isn't normally a topic we bring up.
It's very taboo, and I talk about it. So you've got to come to the show to learn.
Yeah. And what I do love, I want to say about your shows, because I've seen one of your shows and I saw it twice in the same week, that it was like a different performance. It was like a different, because as you said, the jokes were still there, but the way you told them was very different. I think I saw you like on a Thursday night, and then I saw you on the Saturday night, and it was like coming to a different show.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. I don't, because it's just like, it depends on the audience as well, and sometimes they give you a vibe on a different night, and sometimes I'll like chuck in like maybe a new joke that I kind of like want to test out as well. But as I mentioned before, I don't have scripts for my shows. I just go by dot points, or just go by topics, and whatever comes from that and whatever happens, it's going to be what it's going to be. But with every show, I make sure that it's safe for everyone, no matter what your background is, so everyone is always welcome. I will never talk down on a person or on a culture. I will always My shows are dedicated.
Because you hate black people, we know it.
I hate everybody.
So you hate white people. You hate white people. Yeah.
I will always talk about myself because I feel like I grew up sharing a bedroom with my younger sister, and I have always, shared the spotlight with everyone else. I've always put everyone else first. And my hour-long shows are dedicated to talk about me and no one else. That's why I'm forking out all this money for, marketing material and everything. I'm just like, I'm doing this to like hype myself up. Why would I talk down on another person? Because then I'm giving them the spotlight, and I am not sharing my stage with nobody. No.
You want your name in lights as the heading.
Yes, 100%.
And Kimmie at the end.
No, it's like Kimmie full stop. That's it.
Yeah. So we're going to get Kimmie the musical, Kimmie the miniseries, Kimmie the Netflix special.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Hey, I'm watching the time, and I know that we have to wind up, but give us another plug for your show in October.
So my show is called Love. It's in the name. It will be at Bars Apothecary in the city. It will be going for 5 nights from October 13 to October 17. The launch for Melbourne Fringe officially opens on, what is the date? The 9th of August. So when you see this, it will be fully available, so please go on melbournefringe.com to get your tickets, but also please follow me on my socials. I will be doing some possibly some giveaways or some discounts, but please come along. I would appreciate to have everyone there. It is a small venue, so tickets will sell fast. So get your tickets.
Yeah, cool. Now I love the work that you do. Mm-hmm. I will be there. I'll see if I'm gonna book it soon, so I know I get a ticket. But one thing you want someone to walk away with from our yarn this afternoon?
I think being inspired that when life gets hard, that there is always something funny about it. There is always light. I know it's so cliched that there's always the light at the end of the tunnel. And for anybody that knows my story and knows what I've been through and all the darkness that I've kind of come out of, that there is always something funny about I'm going to say it, the shit we go through, especially when it comes to do with online hate and when it comes to racism. In that moment, we're just so shocked that, this is still a thing. But if you're able to, turn away from it or just switch off for a couple of days or a couple hours and watch one of my videos on YouTube, which you should do. There's always
which is very funny to watch.
Yes, there's always something to, I guess, giggle a lot, laugh about when you have these white people thinking they know you more than you, because they don't. Only you know you more than you. Unless you have amnesia, then you really don't know you. So the take from this is, no one can tear you down when you know who you are as a person, whether you're a black follower or not, and to not let people that don't see your vision of your career or your life to stop you from doing the things that you love.
Yeah. Well, Kimmie Lovegrove, I want to actually go thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I love your work, and we'll make sure that we fill those rooms.
Yes.
On that night.
Yes, let's do it.
So, guys, thanks for joining us, and thanks to Kimmie.
Bye.
See you at the next podcast.